Good afternoon, how are you? How's your day going? So, today in the morning when I was reading the Torah portion of this week, of Parashat Eikev, it made me think of the term self-made man, and where it originated, and what does it really mean? And is it a Torah value to be a self-made man? So I went onto Google. You know, you have Rabbi Google today, it's easy. You can find where things originate from and what it means. And they said that the term self-made man was coined by a man, Henry Clay, on the Senate floor, February 2, 1832. Okay? And the idea of a self-made man was that you didn't get an inheritance. It wasn't like someone gave something to you. It was all from not outside circumstances, but all your success came from within yourself. It's all what you accomplished. And they said that the ultimate self-made man in American terminology is Benjamin Franklin. That Ben Franklin, from our founding fathers, he was the ultimate self-made man. He never stopped working and he accomplished everything on himself, by himself, etc., etc. That's what Google told me. Wikipedia, I Googled it. But the truth is that Google must have not searched the Bible and hasn't read this week's portion on Deuteronomy of Moses speaking. Because if it would have read that, it never would have said that self-made man was termed and coined by Henry Clay in 1832. Because in this week's Torah portion, I want to tell you something Moses tells us. And then I want to speak about this idea, are we self-made men and women? Is that a good thing? Is that something to strive for? Is that something that is to be celebrated, etc., etc.? But Moses says like this, and listen carefully, I'm going to read you his words. It's in Deuteronomy, Parshas Eikev, this week's Torah portion. Moses says like this, Viram levavecha, your heart will become haughty, and you will forget God who took you out of Egypt from the house of slaves, who brought you through this great desert, through scorpions and snakes, etc., etc., to bring you to this very day. And then Moses continues, and listen to these words. He says, Va'amarta bilvavecha, you will say in your heart, Koichi, my might, va'aitzim yadi, and the power of my hand, Asa liyas achel hazeh, gave me all my success that I have. But he says, V'zacharti, you should remember, God, your God, because who hanesein lecha koyach lasis chayil. He's the one who really gives you the strength to succeed in everything you do so you could fulfill the covenant you have with God. So Moses uses the word, koichi v'aitzim yadi, that a day comes when you're so successful and you've done so well for yourself that you start thinking, I'm a self-made man. Koichi v'aitzim yadi. My hand made me all the success. Sounds good. In a certain sense, the idea of self-made man in America, you could say, comes from us thinking that we have to work on ourselves. We can't expect to get something from someone else, and so on and so forth. But if you dig a little deeper under the surface, the idea of being a self-made man, and as Moses reminds us in this week's Torah portion, comes from a little bit of arrogance and insecurity of being able to give credit to those that deserve the credit. You see, in Judaism, first of all, there's no such a thing as a self-made man, because everything is a blessing from God. Everything is the divine hand of God, as Moses tells us. Remember that God's the one who gives you the might. When you get arrogant, when you think you're self-made man, that's when you get all the pitfalls and failures in front of you, because you forget, as he says before that, who took you and made you to who you are. You know, many times you find people who, so to speak, have had a self-made success story and have changed the world, and you look at where they've come from, and there's a broken chain in the link where you don't find the people that inspired sometimes their life and have some of the credit for what they did and who they became. And I think part of it is because of the arrogance and the thought that if I give credit to someone for what they did for me in my life, then it takes away of who I became. If there's a teacher or there's a parent or there's a businessman who helped and inspired my life and gave me the first lending hand that I needed, then it takes away from who I became, because I'm not the self-made man. But in Judaism, we have a term that's called Kinanos al Gabi Anak, like a midget on the shoulders of a giant. There's a famous story, a mashal, a parable given in the Midrash about this father who heard about the great king. They lived in a little derf in a little hut, and they heard about this great king, and they wanted to go visit him. And he traveled with his son, and he traveled for days and for weeks and for months, and he finally came. And they came to the palace, and they were devastated. They were devastated to find that there was a huge wall surrounding the palace, like a fortress. And the father couldn't see, and neither could the son. And they were so sad. Here's the 10-year-old son who traveled with his father. They went across the country, and then those days it was harder. And what happened? They barely found that they could see the palace. And finally, the father came up with that idea. He tells his son, come, I'm going to put you on my shoulders. And he puts his son on his shoulders, and his son climbs up, and he's able to lean over the wall, and he sees the most magnificent, majestic palace with royalty, with gold dripping and silver and all these rugs and curtains. It's just majestic. And his father says, son, tell me, what do you see? And the son starts describing all this to the father. And suddenly the son and the father are able to relive and see this gorgeous palace through the eyes of the son. And the rabbis say that that's a microcosm of our life. All of us are like midgets on the shoulders of giants. And the generations before us and the people that have accomplished the things that have gotten us to who we are the true success stories and allow us to propel us to our success. And that when you recognize that and you stand on their shoulders, it allows you to go further and truly be successful and truly accomplish the things you have to do. Think about in your life. You're successful, you have a business, you built a family, you've invented something, you're a big doctor, whatever it may be that is your success. And think about a teacher early on in your life, or think about a business partner, or think about somewhere you worked and someone who had a deep influence on who you were and who you are today. And did you get the opportunity to thank them? Did you ever reach out to them and say, hey, you know what? I never would have been where I am if not for you. And I want to say thank you. If you haven't done it, maybe now's the time. Pick up that phone. Get onto that FaceTime. Call that person. Write a letter to that person. You see, because what Moses is telling us, arrogance, Maimonides quotes this a lot, that arrogance is the worst thing in Torah, because arrogance is like worshiping idols, because you think it's all about me. I'm a self-made man. There's no one that could tell me what to do, could make me who I am, could bring my success. It's me. But if you remember, Moses warns us that that God, your God, is the one who gives you the power to succeed. It's ultimately all God. And when you have that humility, then in the micro, in the world, you can find those people who have helped you, and it makes you humble and allows you to acknowledge them. And when you're able to acknowledge them, you're also able to acknowledge Hashem and all that He did for you. Imagine Moses, he's about to pass away, and he's sitting with the Jewish people, and he's giving them this important lesson in their life. Self-made man wasn't turned by Henry Clay. It was coined by Moses back in the Bible when he warns against it. There is no such a thing as a self-made man, because everyone has the blessings of God that makes them who they are. It's the strength, it's the mother, it's the father, it's the teacher, it's the principal that took a special interest in you. It's the friend in school when you were being embarrassed, protected you. When you were geeky and people thought you were out there, he was looking after you. It's the one who gave you that idea that allowed you to climb where you are. Recognizing them doesn't make you smaller. It allows you to stand on their shoulders and be even greater and become the person you want to become. I want to tell you a story. I've said it years ago in Yom Kippur. It's taking a little detour here, but I think it's important. It's obviously a fictional story, but the example is very powerful. And it's a story about this guy who never lost all his money, and he became a pauper, and he had nothing left. He only had one thing. He had a very good friend who was a very wealthy man, and he made a meeting with him to go get a loan. And he comes into, it's in Tel Aviv, and he gets to the building, and the guy's in a skyscraper, the tallest building in Tel Aviv, and he goes up to the floor. It's all the way on the top, and the guy has a sprawling office, and he sells him his story. It's his old friend, and he asks him, he says, I need, a loan of 15,000 shekel. And the guy takes him cash, and he hands him 15,000 shekel of cash, and he says, here, it's a loan for you. The guy goes out, he's feeling better, he has a friend who cares about him, and he sees that they're on the top floor, and there's a door that allows you to go onto the roof. He says, he has some time to spend. His day he has nothing else to do today. He gets onto the roof. He goes onto the roof of the building, and he opens it. He goes on, and the door slams. He doesn't realize that the door locked behind him. And he goes and he looks at the majestic view of Tel Aviv and all the beautiful buildings and the water at Yafa Port, and he's enjoying it and relaxing. And suddenly the sun starts setting, and it starts getting very chilly. It's in the winter. So he comes to the door to try to go back in. He realizes he locked himself out. And he's banging and banging. He's stuck on the roof. No one. It's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. He's screaming for help. What's he going to do? He looks down below and he sees people looking like little midgets, but nothing. So what does he do? He has no choice. He's desperate to get home. It's midnight. He's freezing. So he starts taking some of his $100 shekels and he throws it down. He figures if he throws down his $100 shekels, someone's going to see it. Someone's going to pick it up. And they're going to see where it's coming from. They're going to wonder. They're going to come up and find him. He throws 10, 20, 50, nothing. Finally, he takes everything. He's desperate. He throws it down. People, he watches, they pick it up, they put it in their pocket, and they go further. What's he going to do now? He has no money left. He's still stuck here. It's after midnight. People are leaving their clubs. They're going home for the night. He's desperate. He sees that near on the roof, near the air conditioning, is like some little stones. So he grabs a handful of little stones, grabs a handful of little stones, and with all his might, he throws it down at the people walking, and it hits the people, and people get it. Imagine it's going from high, although they're small pebbles, it hits them, they start screaming, and they look up, and more come down, and suddenly within minutes, there's people running up to the floor. They break open the door. The police want to arrest him. It takes some time to explain them what happened, so they should let him go home, and here he is going home, without his money, without anything. But he learned a valuable lesson. The lesson was like this. Sometimes when $100 shekel bills are pouring down on us, when life is good, when things are successful, when we have what we need, we just pick it up and we move on. We think we're self-made men. We say, oh wow, I made this money, I move on. We never look up to see where it came from, really. We never give the thank you that's deserved. But when stones come down, when something hits us hard, when there's pain, when there's sadness, when someone in our family's sick, when we lose our job, when we lose our partner, etc., suddenly we come running up screaming, who did that? The lesson is such a powerful lesson. When we have success in our life, Moses warns us, remember, don't get too arrogant and think that I made it myself. You're not a self-made man. Remember to be appreciative. Remember to thank God. Remember to thank the people in your life who gave you the success you have, who helped you on to where you are. So I leave you with this. Have a great day. I think it's something that we could all remember and take a lesson from. If there's a teacher, if there's a friend, if there's a parent that you didn't express to properly the thanks that you owe to them for the success you have in your life, then remember it's important. And it doesn't make you smaller, it makes you greater. It makes you as a midget on the shoulders of giants, which reaches you to places you can never go. And remember, there is no such thing as a self-made man. And remember, most importantly, to every day when you get up in the morning, to thank God for making you the person you are. Because that's what Moses pleads with us in the Torah, because that's true success and that's true happiness. Have a great day.